everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. Hit the subscribe button, push the notification bell so you will be updated every time new content hits. My name is Connie. Today we're going to talk about a horrible, terrible person. If you're interested in what the story is, stay tuned. Okay, everyone, welcome. I have my notes here, so I am going to enlighten you with all the information. So if you see me look down, I'm gathering my notes so I can keep you updated with the accurate information. So, quick question for you guys. Do you know who this guy is? Of course you do. What about him? Of course you do. But do you know him? Maybe, maybe not. That's what today we're going to talk about. This monster, and yes, I call him a monster, and you will by the end of this story, you'll see why. This monster I am referring to is Ed Gein. Ed Gein was born as Edward Theodore Gein in August 27th of 1906. He committed crimes around his hometown of Plainfield, Wisconsin. He gathered widespread notoriety after authorities discovered that Gein had exhumed corpses from his local cemetery and fashioned trophies and keepsakes from their bodies, their bones, and their skin. Gein died at the Mendota Mental Health Institute due to respiratory failure, heart failure, because he had lung cancer. He was convicted of murder of 2 women. One, a tavern owner by the name of Mary Hogan. He murdered her, unfortunately, in 1954. And a Plainfield hardware store owner by the name of Bernice Wharton. And he murdered her in 1957. He dug up numerous corpses and from the grave. So he exhumed bodies from the grave, from their resting place. So, I mean, that's just crazy in itself. In 1968, Gein was found guilty by Gein is buried next to his family in the Plainfield Cemetery in Wisconsin at an unmarked grave. Ed was the second of 2 boys, George Philip Gein and Augusta Gein. He had an older brother. His name was Henry George Gein. He died in 1944. His mother hated her husband because he drank too much and was unable to keep steady jobs. George, the father, owned a local grocery store and local grocery shop for a few years, but sold the business, and the family left the city to live in isolation on a 155-acre farm in Plainfield, Wisconsin, which became the Gein's family residence. Augusta, Ed's mother, turned away outsiders who could have influenced her sons, so she took full advantage of the farm's isolation. Augusta was a religious woman, and she preached to her boys the way of the world, the evil of drinking, and she made them believe that all women were promiscuous and the devil. Of course, not her. So she made herself like everyone but me. All women but me are promiscuous, evil beings. And that's what she taught her boys. Every afternoon, she would find time to read the Bible to them. Her go-to verses were usually from the Old Testament that was concerning death, destruction, murder, and the end of the world. Ed was shy And his classmates and teachers remembered him as being strange, and he would randomly have outbursts of laughter, just like Tourette's, So they was like, he's a strange little kid. But despite his poor social development, he did fairly well in school. Reading was his best subject. And when he would try to make any friends, or any friends would want, anybody wanted to be his friends, his mom would punish him because he wanted to have friends. So, after so many times of trying, trial and error, he just was like, I'm going to be a loner because I would rather not be punished by my mother, and I'll just be by myself. In 1940, Ed's father died of heart failure caused by his alcoholism. He was 66 years old. And you remember I mentioned that he had a brother named Henry? Now, Henry and Ed, they began doing odd jobs around the town while they both worked as handyman. Ed frequently babysat and enjoyed it. I believe that I read that he connected more with children because of his mental state, which I can see, but still, there's babysat though. After you hear the story, if you haven't already heard the story, babysitting with this guy. Anyway, Henry began dating and was worried about his brother and his mother's relationship. He like, you getting too close to mom. Y'all's relationship is kind of strange. And then he also would talk about their mother to Ed, and it made Ed mad. Well, naturally, but it made him furious. It hurt his feelings, and he just didn't understand how could his brother talk badly about their mother. On May 16th of 1944, Henry and Ed were burning away marsh, which is swampy grass, on their farm. He was burning away off the property. So the fire got out of control, and it started blazing up. It got out of control, and the fire department was called. Fire department shows up. Everybody, they extinguish the fire. They get everybody calm. The scene is just cleared, and Ed reports like, where's Henry? We don't know where Henry is. So, of course, he reported that Henry was missing. So, law enforcement comes, and they search for Henry in the marsh. They search the farm, the first area, and they find him face down, dead. At the time when they found him dead, he didn't have any visible marks or anything like that. So they was just like, okay, well, we're just going to rule his death as a heart attack, because he just looks like he just dropped dead. So they did search for him, and like I said, they ruled his death as a heart failure. But it was later reported in the Harold's biography of Gein, and I'm going to link it. I'm going to put his information somewhere on the screen, or in the description, or both, but it'll be there. It was discovered that Henry had bruises on his head and on his hands. So, questionable. The police dismissed this newfound evidence, and possibly possible foul play, and the coroner later just officially ruled his death as asphyxiation, like he just suffocated from the smoke because of the fire. The authorities accepted this as an accident, but no official investigation or autopsy was conducted, and some suspected, you've guessed it, that Ed killed his brother. What do you think? Ed and his mother were now alone. It was just her and him, and she had a stroke shortly after Henry had died. Now, and then Ed, of course, dedicated his life to take care of his mother. I mean, who wouldn't? You would take care of your parents. He just stopped everything. He dedicated his life to taking care of his mom, and that's what he did. Shortly after she had a stroke, a little after that, she had a second stroke, and she died in December of 1945. So maybe a year after Henry died, she passed away because she had a first stroke, which left her, you know, crippled in a way. I don't know if that's the right word, but she wasn't able to get around and things like that. So with her first stroke, she needed help, and Ed dedicated his life to helping her. And the second stroke wasn't good. It made it, you know, she was just deteriorating fast, and she died December 29th of 1945 at the age of 67. Now, Ed was devastated of her death, which, I mean, when you lose a loved one, you will be devastated anyway, but it devastated him. And in the words of the author in the Herald, which I said I link, he said he lost his only friend, one true love, and he was absolutely alone in the world. Those was his words. Gein held on to the farm and worked odd jobs. He boarded up all the rooms that was used by his mother, which it was left immaculate. He just boarded up as she left them. And it was immaculate compared to the rest of the house that was, it was getting left neglected, dirty, and some would say like unlivable. He couldn't even live in the parts of the house that he didn't board up, that his mom didn't frequent when she was alive. Gein became interested in reading up pulp magazines and adventure stories, particularly those involving cannibals and Nazis. But sometime between 1946 and 1956, he sold his 80 acres of their 155-acre land, and that 80 acres that he sold was his brother Henry's part of the land that was his. So he sold the 80 acres that belonged to Henry. And fast forward to 57, a year after this, after he sold the acres, after he sold the 80 acres, a year after that, on the morning of November 16th of 57, a Plainfield hardware store, Bernice Warden, disappeared. Frank Warden, her son, told investigators that Ed had been in the store that evening before his mother had went missing, and he returned the next day to buy a gallon of antifreeze. And it was the last receipt that Bernice wrote was the receipt for Ed Gein's antifreeze. Disappeared. Now later that same evening, Gein was arrested at a grocery store in Plainfield, and the sheriff department searched Gein's farm. And this is where the stuff hits the fan. Trust me. During this search, the sheriff's deputies discovered Warden's decapitated body in a shed on Gein's property. Her torso was dressed out like a deer, and she had been shot. That's terrible for anybody to be treated that way. I mean, she was murdered, decapitated, dressed out like an animal, and then shot. And when I was doing my research, he dressed her out and shot her after he killed her. So it's like, let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. They also found bone fragments, a waste basket made out of human skin, skulls on the bedpost, like female skulls, some with the top sawn off, bowls made of human skulls, leggings made from human skin, masks made from skin of female heads, Mary Hogan's face mask in a paper bag, her skull in a box, Bernice Warden's entire head in a burlap sack, a lampshade made out of skin of human faces, fingernails from females, and the list just goes on and on. And it's just, it's just, I'm a loss for words because it's, I mean, I knew about Ed Gein, I heard stories about him, but when me doing this research, I was like, what? Like, seriously, like, mm-mm. Now, when Gein was questioned, he told investigators that between 1947 and 1952, that he made as many as 40 nocturnal visits to the local graveyards and exhumed recently buried bodies of middle-aged women that he thought resembled his mother. He took the bodies home where he tanned their skin and made his items. Soon after his mother's death, Gein began to create a woman suit.
What?
A woman suit. To literally crawl into his mother's skin. He wanted to fashion a suit of women's skin in likeness of his mother so he can be his mom. He wanted to be in that suit. He wanted to be there. And he was also considered a suspect in several other unsolved crimes, unsolved murders in Wisconsin, including the 1953 disappearance of Evelyn Hartley, and she was a lacrosse babysitter. On November 21st, 1957, Gein was arraigned first-degree murder, and he pled not guilty by reason of insanity. Gein was diagnosed with schizophrenia and found mentally incompetent and unfit to sit trial. He was sent to the Central State Hospital for the Criminally Insane, which is now called the Dodge Correctional Institution, a maximum security facility in Waltham, Wisconsin. And later, he was transferred to Mendota State Hospital in Madison, Wisconsin. Ed's grave, his headstone, was vandalized, and it appeared that in 1999, that thieves stole his headstone. And over the years, souvenir seekers chipped away at his grave, at his headstone, chipped away, trying to get a piece, hear me, trying to get a piece of this man's headstone. Let me say that one more time. Souvenir seekers chipped away pieces of this man's headstone. For what? For what? Why? People crazy. I'm trying to tell you. Why would you want to have a souvenir of Ed Gein's headstone? Why would you want that? But people tried it. Several people tried it. Then they had the guts to steal the whole headstone. And it was later found. His headstone was discovered. Well, they stole the whole headstone in 2000. They took him a whole year to find his headstone. They found it in Seattle. Okay, they found it in Seattle, made his way back to Wisconsin, and the sheriffs had to put it up. They put it away, and now his grave is unmarked. But for anybody that wants to really go there, he's buried between his parents. Their grave headstones, their graves and their headstones are still there, and he's right between them. Well, he's in there in the plot with his brother as well, but he's there, so it's unmarked, but it's not unmarked. You can still find it if you really wanted to. Ed Gein was inspiration to several movies. Several of them. Doing my research, I came up with a list of movies that portrayed him, and he's referenced in several TV shows, movies. I mean, the list it goes on. But I'm just going to highlight two movies that I'm sure we have seen. I've seen them plenty of times, And I'm sure you've seen them. If not, watch it. They're good movies. But now with this education, this knowledge behind the stories, it'll put you in a whole new perspective. But if you have watched them, watch them again. They're good. They're good. But like I said, with the knowledge that you have, watching them now, you're gonna watch it in a different perspective. If you haven't watched them, please. And either way, let me know in the comments what you think about the new information. If you haven't heard about the story of Ed Gein, if you have, and I missed some information and you want to enlighten me, let's chat about it in the comments. I'm all for that. But the two movies I'm going to highlight is one, Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The original, and a couple of the remakes are good, but the original is the best to me personally. And then the second one is Psycho. Norman Bates and his mama. There you go. Norman Bates is his mama now is coming together. Like, oh, he wanted to wear his mama's skin. He wanted to be in his mama's skin suit. And Norman Bates, he dressed as her and he changed his voice like her. Like, really? Even now, it's like, wow, there's really people out there. And this stuff, Psycho was creepy creepy to me. But now, it's inspired by true events. Like, listen, I can go on and I can go on, but I'm not. I'm gonna digress. Okay, please check out these movies. Let's chat about it in the comments. I'll reply. Let's chat about it. Enlighten me with some new information. If you know any more movies that Ed Gein is inspired by, anything, let me know. I am a horror fan, and if you can enlighten me, I am all for that. So what did you think about this terrifying story? Have you heard about Ed Gein and the horrid things that he's done? Let's talk about it. I thank you very much for hanging with me during this story time. Please hit the subscribe button, push the post notification bell, so next time we upload on this channel, you will be notified, and join the family. We'll be happy to have you. Until next time, everybody, stay scared.